I guess we need an intro. Let's go.
What's good, everybody? Welcome back to the Exitpreneur 360 podcast. Thank you very much for clicking play and joining us and having a listen. I've got a super exciting episode today. As I said in the last episode with Sean, or the one before this, I'm talking to what I consider to be the best people in the world and what they do, because I'm very much of the opinion that you become the people you hang around with, and I only want to talk to the best. So he's smiling at me now because he's flattered, I can tell, but it's all good. Before we get started, if you wouldn't mind doing us a favor, please hit subscribe and please share this episode with anybody who's got questions about this topic. I know there's a lot of interest in this topic. It's one of those trending topics that are up and coming, and everybody's talking about it. I'm a perfect example. It's the old story of how do you know somebody does CrossFit? They'll tell you. It's exactly the same kind of mentality here. So please share this episode. Give us a like, give us a subscribe on the button on the episode, whatever you're watching this, Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. Please follow and give us a share. So I'm excited today. I'm joined by all accounts, I've been told, if you're doing this, bro, you need to speak to this guy. So he's the guy that is apparently the man in Joburg to talk to about cold plunging, ice bathing, whatever you want to call it. Comes in different phases and different things. Ronen Aires, I'm saying it right, that's it. Welcome to the podcast, dude. Thank you very much for joining us and agreeing to be here.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
Yeah, dude. You come very highly recommended. Apparently your skills are next level. Give us a little intro, bro. Tell us about you. Who are you? Where have you been? What have you up to?
So I'm a human like everyone else. I'm also a seeker. And so I've spent my lifetime trying to get to the bottom of the way I'm knitted. Why am I the way I am? Yeah. And how can I transcend some of my issues that I have?
Mm-hmm.
And so during the day, I'm an entrepreneur. I run a business called Student Village. And so we're an expert agency in helping large companies connect their products, jobs, and services with youth.
Gotcha.
So I've spent... If we spoke 5 years ago, we probably would have been speaking about just Gen Z. But as in a parallel world, the world of Ronen is, even though I've spent most of my life as an entrepreneur, I love trail running, I love pushing things, and very involved in the community, very involved in various organizations around the world. On the outside, everything looked rosy, and I probably ticked every box imaginable. But inside, on many occasions, I was a complete mess.
Okay.
And so whether it was depletion, whether it was burnout, whether it was just avoiding having those courageous conversations, whether it was being in the wrong relationships, whether it was where, I've got a long chart sheet of issues.
Yeah. And
it was really a number of years ago that I decided if I don't do anything about it, it's not going to get better, it's going to get worse. And so it just so happens fate always deals you the set of cards.
Yeah.
The cards that I got dealt with a number of years ago was two of my top clients, for whatever reason, decided to stop spending with me, and I literally lost half the business overnight. Sent me into a spin, and a lot of things just came out of that. And I reached out to a mentor of mine who's a retired trauma therapist, and I just needed one line of advice. I just needed to know what to do on that day. I don't know if you've ever had that experience where you've just felt, I'm done.
Uh-huh.
I'm done with the business I'm in. I'm done with the relationship I'm in.
Yeah.
I can't stand my partner. I can't stand whatever it is that you feel done in. Well, it was a done, but in capital letters. So uppercase done. And she had pointed me in that direction, which I really didn't want. She said, read a book.
Not a reader.
Well, just like when you...
it wasn't the advice you needed.
On that day, when I'm thinking like I can't face the world, I don't feel like reading.
Yeah.
I just needed to know what to do.
Yeah.
And I'm not the kind of guy in the drop-down menu where there's quit.
Yes.
But I just needed some direction. So anyway, to cut a long story short, the book was called Stealing Fire. and that's really a manual on ultimate human performance. It's written by two authors, Stephen Kotler and Jamie Wheel. And really what they write about is how to find your flow. So how does the use, so how do you get your body and brain to find your mind? How do you feel and operate at your best more often? And how do you find a sense of flow in all areas of your life? So how do you use, so it comprises of the best of neuroscience, psychology, pharmacology or psychedelics, and technology, and how they all intersect for ultimate human performance.
Gotcha.
So that's taken me on a
So
long...
it's holistic.
Holistic.
Gotcha. 360. Which is why I called this podcast the way I did.
Brilliant.
360.
Didn't know
For
that.
that exact reason.
Yeah. So it's really about how to use everything that we've been given, like our biology, our evolutionary drivers. How do you use everything that you've got to kind of distance yourself from that story that's gnawing away at you, and that you can either use your body or the chemicals in your brain to really change your state and your story so that you can live the life that you want.
Amazing. And it helped?
Absolutely helps. So my intention was really to solve me, not to create something out of it. And actually, an interesting story. So long story short is I got selected from the top 50 people around the world. It was 49 top sportsmen, coaches, thinkers, writers in the field globally, and me. I was nowhere. I wasn't even on their mailing list. I didn't even finish reading the book, and I just managed to somehow connect with the authors that they took a chance on me.
Wow.
And so I went through a 3-week boot camp, a private boot camp, to get me up to date. And the line that I heard in the interview was the line that I needed to hear a few months previously was, "Can you get to California in 3 weeks' time?" And so the one thing I remember, so they train the Navy SEALs, they train all the top Fortune 500 companies. And I remember I used to do a lot of, adventure racing and trail running and all these kind of things. And, when they say work on your core,
Yeah.
that's the hardest thing to do. So it's the thing like I avoided the most. But when I started working on it, it changed everything. When I got to this course, it was so above me. And that was the first time where I saw breath work. And who was our teacher? Andrew Huberman.
Oh, wow, okay. So it's like
Yeah.
Andrew Huberman.
It was Andrew Huberman. So
Amazing.
But when I came back all those years ago, I said, I met this amazing guy, Andrew Huberman. No one knew who
Yeah.
this guy was.
Yeah.
So anyway, when I arrived and everyone was heaving, this in, out, and getting into a state and then stacking it
Yeah.
with psychedelics or whatever it was to get into the ultimate state. I thought I'd arrived at a cult. Because I was the only one, like I'd heard, breath work is good, use your breath, but no one knows how.
Yeah.
And so that was the first thing that really that really shook me, was the power of your breath to shift your state.
Yeah.
Because your breath is it's a live connection to your nervous system.
Yeah.
And so the best way to shift your state is actually with your breath.
Gotcha.
So really what happened is I worked on myself and got myself back out of the hole and into a really good place. And then I just started sharing with people what I've been up to and what got me there. And then the doors started knocking. People wanted to know how. People wanted to know the tools. And then COVID came, and then things just totally ramped up, and now it's a whole big offering. So I decided, like with everything, get yourself right, and then use the same tools to help uplift others.
Amazing. And as you say, I mean, it sounds a little bit like what you're saying here is you caught a trend as it was catching fire. Stealing fire, catching fire, a bit of a trend there, and you were at the right place at the right time, you got the right opportunity, and you've made the most of it.
Yeah, and it was totally not intentional. It was totally almost like the stars aligned, and it happened.
So it's such a beautiful, actually, the story that you've explained about your business losing those clients, and you asking that question to yourself about, when am I done? Like that's exactly the story of this podcast. The early episodes, I share why I started this and why I embarked on this journey and why I'm sitting here talking to you. So you're also, it sounds like you're a real good fit for what we talk about here because you're entrepreneurial. If you weren't entrepreneurial, that catching the trend at the right time, being at the right place, right time, right opportunity, and seeing the demand for it. If you weren't entrepreneurial, you wouldn't have done anything about it. But you are entrepreneurial, and you did do something about it. And now you've got a new successful business, which is such a good story for this.
Yeah, and part of it is also around the dream of who I want to be. So I think we live in a world where we're not going to be one thing our whole life.
Yeah.
We've often watched our parents and grandparents where, you know, their default setting was you married to a certain career and that's who you are for the rest of your days.
You're a lawyer, you're a doctor.
Yeah, and that's your identity, and I think we're going to hopefully be living longer, hopefully healthier. And with that, it's going to require, we're living in such a chaotic and a world of disruption that we have to keep on reinventing ourselves. So it's quite interesting that it kind of happened for me. Like I needed to reinvent myself because my direction was only digging myself deeper into a hole. So in learning the tools of top performance, it almost happened for me. I reinvented myself, and then you've got to add the purpose and meaning layer. I've always wanted to work with leaders. I love the transformational process of working with leaders to awaken their potential so they can go on and do great things.
Amazing.
I don't necessarily, like I've always wanted, like you hear people that say, I want to change the world. Yeah, I'd also love to change the world, but not one person's not going to change the world. But it takes many, many leaders awakening to the fact that they can do their little bit in their sphere of influence, and if you thread them all together, that creates systemic and massive change.
Amazing.
And that's why I've always been called to working with leaders. Amazing. Globally.
Well, yeah, that's amazing, man. I mean, it's so funny as I'm sitting here, you see me smiling because I'm just like, wow, man, this is so. I must be on the right track of what I'm doing because of what you're saying, and I can relate so heavily. You're maybe 5 years or 10 years ahead of me, but I can relate so heavily to what you're saying, like particularly like where you start off saying, I needed that chapter of my life to kind of end. I needed that shock to the system so that it could open me up to something else, and then something else presented itself. And a lot of the time people say, oh, you got lucky. No, I don't believe that. I believe you make your own luck. And that opportunity you would never have found that opportunity, which has taken you on this pathway for 10 years, 5 years, 10 years. And if that shit hadn't happened in your life, you wouldn't have been able to see that.
Yeah. And by the way, you just described the process of a cold immersion.
Okay. What a segue, dude, because that's a brilliant segue. So by the way, like my hunch, like I said to you before we started, like I think I'd love to have more of you if you'd be willing, and in the future do some more episodes. And you've just confirmed that you definitely are the dude. But that's not why I called you out today and why I wanted to talk to you. I got, as I said, is when I posted the initial posts about the podcast and promoting it and launching it. One of the videos I sent out was about me swimming 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning, 2-degree water outside, and a lot of people coming forward going, "Dude, are you nuts?" And I know that it's not such a crazy thing because it's something that I've been doing for a little while. But I also know that I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And when was my brother who actually said, "Hey, dude, you need to speak to Ronen Aires because he's the guy who does the cold immersions." And then I think I spoke to someone else and they're like, "Dude, you need to speak to Ronen Aires." I was like, "Right, cool. Who's this Ronen? Hook me up." So just by way of introduction, how I got into it, and I think that's why, as I said, why I called you out is because I think I would like to know, I'd like to improve. That's the whole point of this podcast for me, is about learning what I don't know and being better and being around the best people in the world who can show me. I want to know all the questions. You actually asked some of them yourself before we started, so I think you're ready for it. By way of introduction, how I got into the cold immersion or cold plunging, I'm currently doing 75 hard as I mentioned. And by the way, if anybody's listening and you want to do 75 hard with us, please jump in. I'll put the WhatsApp chat in the episode notes below. Come join us. Got about 25 people now around the world doing it. It's just exploded beyond what I could have hoped for. 75 Hard, I did it a few years ago. It was introduced to me by my the CEO of the business I was in before. And I did it very much like, whatever. And then 2023, when I started this journey of transformation of, hey, I need to get out of this. I need to be doing something that I can be the best in the world. And I need to be doing something that I love. Time's running out. You're not as young as you used to. All of that shit, the midlife crisis stuff that I was going through. I decided to do the Live Hard program, which is 75 hard for 75 days, 30 days off. And then you got to do phase 1, which is called. And phase 1, it's the 75 hard, 5 things you need to do every day. But you have to add on 3 things. One of the things that you have to add on is a 5-minute cold shower. I was in LA at the time. And dude, and I'm not making this up, my family will vouch, my friends will vouch. I've always been that guy who stands in the middle of summer, December holiday, will stand on the edge of the water like scared to get in. That's been me. And always bitched about winter. I've always hated the cold. The 5-minute cold shower, I was dreading, but I knew that I wanted to do the Live Hard program was something that I knew, just having that focus and that direction, that discipline I needed. So the first day I did the cold shower, and I could only do a cold shower. I was in LA, we didn't have a swimming pool, so I just needed to do a cold shower for 5 minutes. And it was, without a doubt, one of the toughest things I've ever done. Got out the shower afterwards, and I literally passed out on the bed. Like, physiologically, I couldn't carry on. I was so exhausted. I realized, obviously, because I'd worked myself up. Did the 30 days of cold shower, really enjoyed it. I got into it and started to enjoy it. And then when I got back to South Africa in sort of January, February here, obviously I was swimming every day, and it slowly got colder and colder and colder. So till it was getting through May, June, July. May it was like 9 degrees, 7 degrees, and slowly into June, July, I started to get into 2 degrees in the swimming pool.
Wow.
And
could you get cold temperatures in your shower in LA?
Yeah.
Wow.
You could. Well, cold enough. It's unpleasant enough. I guess, and that's, I think, is part of the point of the 75 of the phase 1 is it's a challenge. It's getting comfortable being uncomfortable. So I posted some videos and people came out going, dude, a few people said they wanted to do it with me. I've had 2 people legitimately say, I'll come and do it. And their wives, the one guy's wife said, absolutely not, he's not. This was in sort of June. And the one guy's mother turned around and said, absolutely, she's a family friend. She turned around and said, she phoned me herself. She said, dude, stop messing with my son. This is a 45-year-old guy. She said, absolutely not, he's not doing it. So I now get it. But I also realized that I don't know. I've never looked into I know about the vagus nerve, and I know for me why I do it is because when I learned this in LA when I was doing the cold showers was when you get out of that cold shower, you're so proud of yourself and you're so stoked. Anything else you have to face that day becomes much easier to take care of because you've done one of the hardest things you're going to do, or probably the hardest thing you're going to do that day. So the psychological element of it was what was great for me. And like even today when I come home from a run this morning and I jumped in, it's 9 degrees now, it's starting to warm up fast, but I know that anything else I have to put up with that day is going to be easier. But I would like to know, that's why I'm here.
Has it got easier for you?
The process has gotten easier because I'm used to it. It becomes like anything else on 75 hard, I guess the same thing. The process become easier. It takes me and this is where I don't know anything about the breathing. So it takes me a couple of seconds to stand there on the water, no shirt on, and I'm not even feeling the cold now at like 6 a.m. in the morning. I'm not even worried about it. Much easier to jump in. It's become a bit easier to jump in. And once I'm in, it took me through April, May, as the water was getting colder and colder. It took me a little while through those periods to count to 100, count to 200, so that I knew I was doing 3 minutes or 5 minutes, and get into your own head and go, dude, this isn't so bad, and like look at the birds and breathe. And I realized that I'm making it hard on myself because I don't know all of these breathing techniques and all that stuff, but it has gotten easier and more enjoyable. I'm not more proud of myself, but I'm proud of myself every time. Because it's still shit. It's horrible.
So it's a perfect system for self-elevation.
That's a great term, self-elevation.
And so if you look at the anatomy of it, if you look at the process of a cold immersion, what I find fascinating is most people call them the cold immersion virgins.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah, that 0 to 1 is so hard because you've got the story playing in your head that this is crazy. This is like the new age version of walking on hot coals.
That's a great analogy. I remember in the 90s there was all the rage.
Yeah. Now the thing is, if you look anywhere, just like you said, if you want to find out about someone who's cold immersion, they'll tell you. And wherever you look, it's happening. And yes, it's trendy, but when did it start? Well, it started at the beginning of time.
Yeah.
We've always had cold.
Yeah.
And we've always had heat.
Yeah.
And the ancients knew. So if you go to any ancient city and you go to any ancient ruins, this is where the hot baths were. This is where the cold baths were. This is where the steam rooms were. This is not new stuff.
Yeah.
The only thing is science is catching up.
Yes.
And now there's more empirical evidence around. There's more around heat than cold, but there's plenty around cold.
Right.
Now, the interesting thing that I find is just people's attitude towards cold. So, if you had to say rationally to someone, can you deal with a minute of discomfort? I guess they'd say it depends. Depends what I have to do in the minute. If I said to you, in 1 minute, you're going to feel totally uncomfortable. You'll be safe, but you're going to feel totally uncomfortable. Your body may go into some form of mild or one step lemon and herb or mild version of shock. And you'll be able to teach yourself how to self-regulate. And for doing that, the payoff would be a long list of things that you cannot get from your psychiatrist.
Yeah.
You cannot get from any doctor the upside for facing that discomfort.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to go through some of the benefits, but it's still fascinating to me today. Like people who you show the benefits. Would you want any of these benefits? Do you want to reduce your stress? Do you want to reduce your inflammation? Do you want more focus? Do you want to be more calm? Do you want to feel more alive? Do you want more meaning? Do you want a sense of accomplishment, a sense of achievement? Do you want to shake off that foggy, fuzzy head that you wake up with?
Yeah.
All that brain fog. Do you want to feel like $1 million in 1 minute or in 2 minutes?
Yeah.
And most people would say yes to all of it. I said, well, here's the answer.
Yeah.
It's in front of you.
Yeah.
So would you do that? No.
So that's the experience I've had. I don't know. I'm not as articulate as you about all of what you've just said, but they can see in my face that it's a great feeling. So then do it. No, bro.
Yeah. So there is a wall, and I don't know if it's society's conditioning. I don't know where, because it's a bit of a bobber mice. Yeah. Where like if you go in cold during winter, you're going to get sick.
Yeah.
You've got to wait for the first rains. You've got to wait for the 1st of September.
I forgot about that.
What is that nonsense?
Yeah.
And so even in some of the research, what they've seen is people who cold shower. So they did studies in companies to see around absenteeism. You get 30 to 40% less absenteeism, specifically from flus and chest infections.
Amazing.
From the cold shower people.
Amazing.
So not only do they feel great, not only are they more productive, focused, elevated mood, but they show up. They show up and they don't get sick.
Amazing.
So there's just so many benefits. So where do you want to take it? I'm ready to offer it.
Beautiful. Dude, I can't tell you how good it is to validate what I've had a hunch about. And it's not that, it's purely laziness, I suppose. I could have looked this all up, but actually I'm glad I didn't, because I was doing it ignorance, and ignorance is bliss. I kind of enjoyed just being a crazy human who just jumped into cold water and living here on my sister's property with like the family. And every morning I say, who's coming for a swim? And they'd be like, they're so tired of saying no. I loved being that. I like being an outsider, a person who does crazy shit. But I thought it was time to get educated and to understand a little bit of the science behind it, because there's 100,000% there is science behind it. That's the other thing I think. And you asked about where is this nonsense about, you jump in cold water and you're going to get sick, and like where is this? Is it a societal thing that says don't jump in cold water? I think that recording podcasts like this is exactly what's changing that feeling in the world and making it a trend. So more and more people are trying it. I think what would be really helpful would be to if you could answer some questions about, and these are just common questions that I have, but I think that have been asked to me about over the months. What is cold plunge? How cold is cold? How cold is, when do I know I'm doing it right? Is a cold shower the same thing? Like what qualifies?
So cold is relative. Cold is relative. Like it doesn't matter what size you are. It doesn't matter how tall you are. It's what it feels like to you.
Yeah.
So I can tell you all the research is done from 15 degrees downwards.
Okay. 15 is high.
Yeah. So you can assume that at 15 degrees and lower, so 15 is Clifton on a reasonable day.
Wow.
So all the research is done, you could say, from 15 downwards, and it's usually like around 10 degrees is they don't usually go much lower than that. So if you look at the 10 to 15 degrees, that's considered cold. So you can get that from your shower, and maybe we'll talk a bit later about, is the shower good enough, or do you need to immerse yourself? And then I want to tell you about the best hack I've had in the last year is a face plunge. So we can get to that later.
Oh, wow, okay.
Because this is a low-tech, low-cost way to get all the good stuff in less than a minute.
That's so interesting. I did one of those recently. Well, I'll tell you about it. Yeah. But I didn't know this.
Yeah. So now, whether you're in LA, New York, or Joburg, there's something about our modern day conditioning, and you can call it, most people think it's a Joburger thing, but actually I've seen it all around the world. Once you've had a taste of the good stuff, most people want to double, triple, and quadruple and make it exponential. So they start off with, I'm going to build up to a 1 minute, and then I'm going to get to 2 minutes, and then I'm going to get to 3 minutes, and then I start getting messages from people, I'm doing about 15 minutes ago, and then I'm doing...
They're staying in for 15 minutes?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so there's a big thing to understand why you do this, and what is happening inside your body, and when is it good?
Yeah.
And when is it getting not productive, not so good, and then dangerous?
Unhealthy. Yeah.
So you can actually not only have a bad response, it can be counterproductive. It can be bad for your health if you push it too much. Then all you're doing is you're just swapping one crutch for another. You're taking one addiction, and now you're making
one extreme to the other, and moderation is where you need to be.
Yeah. So it's like that old adage, like, with a Coke addict that's a vegan. It's not helpful.
Yeah.
So if you look at a cold immersion,
right?
I've trained with this beautiful doctor in Denmark. Her name is Susanna Suberg.
Right.
Look up her stuff. She's amazing, and she's Andrew Huberman's go-to person for cold, heat, and breath, mainly cold and heat. And he actually came up with the term, the Suberg principle, based on her research that she released during COVID. And she came up with a golden amount of time that you need, and assuming 10 to 15 degrees cold, 11 minutes a week.
A week. That's interesting.
So you can get all the upside. So imagine, for instance, you were on a pill that gave you the exact same benefits as a cold immersion.
Right.
You would probably need to take it every day. For a cold immersion, you need 11 minutes of exposure a week. You don't have to get it at once. It's best to break it up to 2 to 3 or 3 to 4 times a week, and break it up into little bits. And then obviously it's actually much better, and maybe for a later conversation, to get the contrast therapy of cold, heat, heat, and when to end on cold and when to end on heat.
Yeah.
So that golden number of 11 minutes, Most guys in Joburg would get that by Monday.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so it's really it's not something you actually have to do every day. And
Yeah.
and the weirdest thing is the people who get the most benefit from it are the people that are, how do you say, are don't want to do it the most. Those
The most reluctant.
the most reluctant and the most resistant are actually in for the biggest reward, because we have a reward center in our brain that rewards us for doing the hard thing.
Jesus, that's
So-
interesting.
So just think, there's nothing. What else besides probably jumping off a bridge or being a base jumper can give you 250 to 300% dopamine
Is that what a cold plunge gives you?
for 4 to 6 hours afterwards,
What?
above your base level
Wow.
levels. And so you ask yourself, so what? You know, why? Well, you know, what does that give you? And so if you've got 250 to 300% above your baseline limit, for most people that are struggling with any form of mental health, one of the biggest things is getting out of bed or getting off the couch.
Gotcha.
Dopamine not only elevates your mood, it helps you to get going. It helps you to want to do stuff. It gives you inherent motivation.
So
It
interesting.
gives you motivation. It elevates your mood.
Yeah.
And if you do it with someone, and this is something that I'm very big on. It's one thing to do things on your own, but even us having this conversation together is much better than you recording it on your own.
Yes.
And so when you do these kind of things together, it adds in oxytocin. So now dopamine and oxytocin, you have this feeling of connection. And what is the new pandemic? Loneliness.
Yeah.
So doing these things together,
Shit, man, this is mind blowing, actually.
yeah. So now you're doubling up. So all these practices. So let's go back. All these practices are about creating an acute amount of stress, so a small amount of stress, just like an exercise workout would be, and the reaction to that stress. So the acute stress is called hormesis, and how your body tries to return itself back to its homeostasis, back to center, is where you get all the delivery. So if you make yourself cold, your body's going to have a shock response. In the shock response, you're going to be elevated with noradrenaline, with dopamine, with all these things that your body's trying to self-correct itself. And so you've got at least half the day to most of the day of even your metabolism is up 250 to 500%. So like you cannot get this in any other way. So the strategy for changing your state from frazzled or lethargic is to use your evolutionary ways to change your state. So whether it's breath, exercise, cold and heat, connection, and elevate it with music and substances. And that can be anything from cacao to mushrooms to ashwagandha, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be psychedelics.
Yeah.
And so those are your evolutionary ways to work with your state. And so when I heard you talking about, I'm in the pool and I'm counting to 100, it sounds like torture. If you were in the pool listening to music that's moving,
Amazing. I never thought to add music into this.
you add music and close your eyes and just say, I'm going to be in here until this track is over, and just focus on your breath and actually...
Such an interesting reframing, man.
Yeah. And so you want that shock about getting into the cold. The thing is, jumping in the pool is probably, from a safety perspective, you're adapted, so it's fine. Naturally, I would tell people to go in slowly, to walk in slowly, but don't waste time.
Yes, I was going to say, because that makes it much harder. But okay, but don't waste time.
Use the steps instead of jumping in.
Yes.
Don't put your head under first. This is the most crucial safety thing to learn. So,
why is that? Because I've had experience with that.
speak to any of your Ironman friends. What happens in the first minute in the Ironman swim? what is the most dangerous sport out there? And that's open water.
Right.
So open water swimming creates the most cardiac incidents in any sport.
Wow.
And so the swim is first up in the triathlon. And so what actually happens is if you immerse up to your shoulders, you're getting a sympathetic response, so a stress response from your body. When you put your head in, you're getting the opposite. It's trying to get into relaxation. So in that, it sends a conflicting message to your nervous system, which sends a conflicting message to your heart, and that can create an arrhythmia. And so,
Oh shit! So it's actually physiologically dangerous.
when it's cold,
Yes.
so if it's not cold, then of course you can dive into the pool. What I'm saying here is the best approach, the safe approach, is actually to get in. Don't put your head in, and the first 30 to 45 seconds is where you would have elevated breathing or the shock response, and that's when your body's literally the alarm's gone off, but you rationally you know you're safe, but
Yes.
your body doesn't know the difference, so it's trying to
Yes.
self-correct itself. And so you want that shock response, because in the self-correction, that's where you get all the upside. And once after that 45 seconds, you can use your breath. And so in the first 45 seconds, whatever your breath or body is doing, don't try to stop it. You actually want to double down on it. So not to sound like a heaver, but if you get in and suddenly your breath is like, or you want to squeal like an animal caught in a fence, do it.
Do it. Go with
Do
it.
it.
Go
Go
embrace
with it instead of
Let your body do what it's naturally
Yeah.
supposed to do.
like it's actually so cathartic
Yeah.
because as you realize after 30 to 45 seconds that actually I'm not going to die,
Yeah.
then you just take
And that's
slow
your-
breaths
yeah.
through your nose
Yeah.
and long exhale. So when you breathe in, it's a sympathetic response that gives you energy, vitality, and it makes you more aware. Your exhale is the brakes or the parachute. And so long exhales send a signal to your brain to say,
Calm down.
I'm okay.
Yeah. Just
Calm
relax.
down. We're fine.
Yeah.
And so now if you've got beautiful music playing, so you can choose whether it's ethereal, whether it's
Whatever you consider to be
whatever's
healing to you.
whatever you need on the day.
Yeah.
So
For me,
sometimes
it's drum and bass.
Yeah, I was
Like,
going
that's
to
what
say,
I run to.
if you want drum and bass, or
Yeah.
if you want EDM,
Yeah.
whatever you
Yeah.
call for. Some people want classical, some want angels. Whatever. It's like golf. You pick the club for the shot that's required, right? And you can close your eyes and just listen to the music and focus on your breath. And I promise you, it 10x's the whole experience, and the time just disappears. Time.
Dude, you've blown my mind. Like you've whatever I hoped I could have gotten out of this conversation has been 10x'd. Because I didn't even consider something. I was thinking about this very practically. I was like, dude, just tell us numbers, metrics. Like, how do we? But you've actually gone at it. You've introduced the whole, and music is it's the reason I'm running 21 kilometers now is because of music, drum and bass music.
Yeah.
I put it onto a speaker on my belt and I run at 5 a.m. in the morning and I make a big fat noise and I don't care. And it just pushes me and makes me, and I've never once did I get back from one of those runs and go, dude, just why don't you play some music while you're doing this?
Yeah. And if you've got music, so remember, music predates language. So how your brain is working with that is much deeper than you can imagine. And so if you've got music and company in the pool, so you get the dopamine, oxytocin, and you're getting, it's lowering your inflammation, it's lowering your stress, it's increasing your metabolism, it's cleaning out your system, so your blood vessels become more resilient, and it's cleaning the stuff in between. You're getting lymph drainage, you're getting like there is such a long list of benefits for just having a slight amount of discomfort. And you want the discomfort, because remember, your brain rewards you for discomfort. So it's like on the days that you really don't want to do it, you'll get the most benefit.
Yes.
And
which is also like, it's exactly what you're saying about the people who don't want to do it the most get the biggest benefit out of it.
Now think of it. If the pandemic at the moment is around loneliness and it's caused a huge mental health crisis, and in that crisis we feel alone most of the time. We're carrying this burden and this heavy load, and the story amplifies in your head, and everyone's got their own story and how their life is either playing out or not playing out. And what I find is before I have those conversations with people, I say, let's do this. Let's plunge first and then chat.
Changes the conversation.
It's a totally different conversation because you're elevated, connected, and you're so loosely attached to that story that had its like claws in you. And so you've got a lot more perspective when you're out of your cage, when you're not a prisoner in your own brain. And so these for me are tools around self-regulation and self-elevation. Because really, if you want to master things in this world, in the time that we're living now, we're living between either I'm trying to control the moment or I'm so out of control. I either want to repress, numb, drink, or just space out of the moment. Escape because I'm so out of control. All these tools that we're talking about now are tools to find your way back to center, so that you can feel like the true you, the you that you know is the one you want to be, and still go out into the same world and crush it.
You've blown my mind, eh? You really have. It's so interesting because, as I said, I kind of came into this conversation going, just give us the fact so that people who are listening can potentially do it themselves. But you've given so much more context to it. One thing I want to know, I want to tell you what I go through physically. Again, talking as a complete ignorant fool here, who's now awoken to all of this stuff. I'm going, wow, this is going to change how I embrace this part of my life completely. When I jump into the water, okay, so admittedly, I know that I'm swimming in a swimming pool, and now that it's getting warmer and warmer and warmer, it's going to become less cold. A lot of people are doing ice baths and that sort of thing. Some people are doing cold showers, which I think are the hardest because it just whacks your body all over and like keeps you on edge.
Yeah, the reason I find, because let's deal with that question now.
Yeah.
Is there a difference between a cold shower and a cold immersion, assuming that the same temperature?
Yes.
So one is probably the cold bath will always be colder. So we can't actually...
The cold plunge.
Yeah.
Yes.
Will always be colder. But assuming it's the same, like, do you get the same benefits? And to cut a long story short, a cold shower is really a good place to start, and it is good enough.
Yes. Got you. I love that answer.
Yeah.
Because it's also extremely accessible. Anybody can do it.
Anyone can do it, and it really can shift your state.
Yeah.
Quick little thing, in the morning you want to end, you can start on heat, but you want to end on cold. The reason being is the reaction after the cold is your metabolism is firing up, and you're getting all the feel-good chemicals and the drive chemicals to go out into the day and get busy and active and productive. And you want your metabolism to be firing up and getting all those good chemicals so you can go and have a good day.
Yeah.
If you end on cold, on heat, which you should at night, then your body's trying to cool itself down, and then it will want to sleep.
Got you.
So that's a good thing to remember. Back to the cold immersion versus the shower. When you immerse yourself, so when at least up to your waist, you're covered in water, it's going to set off the mammalian dive reflex. So that's when a lot of your temperature sensors are immersed in water.
Yeah.
And that's essentially an evolutionary alarm bell.
Yeah.
So someone's pushed the panic, and you get this noradrenaline rush to your brain, and it says, I'm in trouble, save me. And that effectively starts a whole other process. And we'll talk about it maybe on a later conversation, is it activates your brown fat, which is your good fat. And really that's your internal furnace. And it starts to start drawing in all the glucose it can find in your your bloodstream, in your white fat cells, and it really cranks the machine up and it gets your mitochondria like really, really firing. So most people look at cold as post-workout.
Yeah.
But if you did it pre-workout and test your run afterwards, there's a good chance I've seen with people that I work with that with breath work and a cold plunge and then go and run, could probably do 20 to 30 seconds faster per kilometer.
Wow.
Just because your mitochondria,
You've prepared your body a bit better.
your body's so primed for action, and
Amazing.
and your energy, your cells are full of energy and are ready to go.
Well, that's the feeling you get when you come home from a run and then you jump in the water. You feel energized afterwards. You're not tired.
Yeah. So it's that sense of invigoration, feeling alive, and also it's an anti-inflammatory. It de-stresses you. You've got the endorphins from the run. So you've basically got a full house.
Gotcha.
And so the only thing missing there, again, I'll come back to, is connection.
Yeah.
So you really solve and it doesn't have to be during that session, but if you connect with someone immediately after that, then you've got the full house.
Dude,
You are the alchemist after that.
Amazing. To think about social connection on top of this, to bring that into the conversation, to bolt it on, is so far removed from what I would have guessed. But it makes total sense.
Yeah.
And it's no surprise. You crave it when you're out the water. You like to talk to someone and tell them about what I just did, or like how proud of myself I am, or just have a conversation. Or
I'll even challenge you further. If you did all of this with someone and you didn't even talk, you'd feel the same.
Amazing.
It's just that sense of we're doing something together,
Yeah.
even looking into each other's eyes.
Amazing.
Not even. I know it sounds romantic,
Yeah,
but I'm just saying
got
it's
you.
co-regulation. It's like you'll feel better. All your problems will dissipate from level 12 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 on any given day, and you'll feel immediate. Probably you'd be at 2.
Yeah. No, I've experienced it myself personally. The stress stuff that's on your mind that's really hanging there and like is taking up space.
Yeah.
Sorry if there's a noise, guys. We've got children outside. But it just obviously your problems are still there, but they just seem so much more surmountable than
manageable.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so part of that is distancing yourself, like detaching partly from your story.
Yeah.
And so it's really like called the Alchemist Cookbook.
Yeah.
Like how do you use all these neurochemicals that are naturally at our disposal?
Love that.
How do you use it to bake your own cake so that you feel your best and you can go out there and do great work? And when you've had a few slices and you're satiated, the big thing is to remember, okay, how do you use this to either show others or help others?
Yeah. Well, that's what I feel like I'm doing here, because that's what I'm again, as you say, people tell you if they do cold plunging. Yes, we will, because it's so cool. It's so lacquer. And it makes you feel so good. We want you to do it too. We want you to benefit from it as well.
Yeah. The one thing that's popping in my head is, okay, what are how do I go about doing it?
Yeah.
Where do I find it?
Yeah.
And
so let's make it accessible. I mean, guys, and also apologies for the length. I know that I've made a big deal on this podcast about keeping things short so that it's accessible, but I don't care, to be honest. Like when the cake is delicious, I want to eat as much as I can. And when the value is there, I mean, if you've stuck with us this far, then you really are interested. So let's make it super practical. And let's just answer the basic questions. Somebody once is hearing this and going, hey, Stephen's been driving me mad and he wants me to cold plunge with him, and I keep telling him no, but like listening to Ronen, maybe I will try. What's step 1? Like what's step 2? What's step 3?
For me, like start slowly, start small, grow tall.
I like it, yeah.
So those aren't my words. I love it from a song, but I love the idea of that. So imagine you're having your morning shower, and for the last 10 seconds you turn it absolutely cold.
Love it.
And you feel that, when you start to that's when you know it's working. And so you want it at the back of your head, on your head, like around your shoulders and neck and your head. And you want to feel that discomfort, and then you don't want to put the heat. You want to end there.
Get out.
You can put the towel around you. if you're shivering, so you probably won't shiver after 10 seconds, but if you're shivering afterwards, it's actually good to shiver for a minute because you're cranking up your metabolism because your body's trying to sort itself out, and there's so much goodness in it. So start small and start building yourself up over time. So 5 to 10 showers, you'll already feel a level of adaptation that you didn't think was possible a week before that.
Beautiful.
The same when it comes to a cold immersion. If you feel like it's a bridge too far, like getting into the pool, just stand on the step. Stand in for a minute, 30 seconds, then go out. You can do it multiple times a day if you want. They say between 5 and 9 attempts, you will already feel a lot more adapted than you were prior to this.
Gotcha.
And then you keep on going further and further. At the moment, we've still got a window for the next, I'd say, month where the swimming pool is...
I was saying to someone, so middle of June, July, I was jumping into the pool 6 a.m. when I got home from a run. It was 2 degrees, was the coldest it got to. This morning I jumped in, it was 9 degrees already.
Yeah.
And it's end of August.
Yeah.
So it's getting, but it will have a cold front, but yeah, it is.
Now the thing is, if you know from earlier on that 15 degrees is adequate, 10.
So, sorry, a question on that. So I've always been proud of myself coming into this year, going through March, April, May, and watching the temperature go down and down and down and going, hey, what's it going to get to? How low will it go? Getting into June, July, and it was at 2 degrees, and I was like, that's the coldest it's got. And I was like, super proud. It was almost a race to the bottom, and I was super proud of myself. What you're suggesting, correct me if I'm wrong, is it's not a race to the bottom. If you can do 2 degrees, do 2 degrees.
Yeah.
But if you're doing only 10 or 15, that's also okay.
Yeah. From a physiological level, you don't need to.
Beautiful.
From a resilience level,
Yes.
and what you're doing is you're extending your window or your ability to be resilient to life's plot twists, turns, and stuff.
Yeah.
So the hard part, and by nature, like I said, the Joburg recipe is to double down and triple down, and so the race to the bottom is how hard can I be, but it's great, but it's physiologically not necessary, but it's good for your mindset.
Yeah.
So on a mindset level, and just to adjust, at 2 degrees, you don't need to be as long in if it was 12 degrees or 15 degrees. So just understanding that if you're trying to get the physiological benefits, which is the dopamine, hopefully the oxytocin, and in other things, serotonin, which you'll get from exercise, and you just need that 1 to 2 minutes.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, they say, well, I don't shiver yet and I don't get cold. Once you start adapting, you won't have such a visceral response.
But you're still getting the physiological
You're
response,
getting it.
even though you don't feel like.
Yeah.
Because I was going to say, like, to me, like this morning, 9 degrees. It was cold, but 9 degrees in the middle of summer is not going to feel as cold.
Yeah.
And 10 degrees, 15 degrees, 12 degrees. I've got to be honest, after doing 2 degrees, I'm going to be a bit like... So I want to make sure that even though I'm still jumping in it and it's not 2 degrees, I'm still getting that. Even though I'm not feeling it, my body is feeling it.
Yeah. And now there are ways to get that feeling.
Yeah.
So if it's the feeling you're after, then that's a different conversation.
Yeah.
So just know physiologically you're getting the delivery that's required.
Gotcha. That's what's more important, I suppose.
Yeah. And then from a mindset perspective, you can always challenge yourself. You can either go, one of the best hacks, if you've never used Zulzi, or I'm sure you can even use Uber Eats, or is, so the first thing is people say, well, I'm going to have to buy ice, I'm going to put it in my bath.
Yeah.
Right? So what I found is, at that stage, when I had started, I used to be going to the garage all the time and trying to fill my car up.
Yeah.
Do they have stock? They don't have stock, and then it's messing in the car and all of that. If you use the app Zulzi, which is
nice, this podcast is not sponsored by Zulzi for the record.
Yeah, I do know the founder, but I'm in no ways promoting him. Yeah, I don't have any upside. Yeah, I get no upside. But what I find amazing is in 15 minutes, the ice gets delivered to you, and you can put it straight in your bath.
Gotcha.
Fill it. Don't put too much water, because otherwise,
It melts quickly.
yeah. And then let it sit for a while, and then get in. And really, it's really about feeling the cold.
Yes.
And so you want to get in. You want to get in as soon as possible. Embrace that cold for the first 30 to 45 seconds.
Yeah.
And then you really don't need more than, like, if you want to stay for 4 minutes or 5 minutes, it's fine, but you don't have to.
Yeah.
Then I want to talk about the face plunge.
Yes.
This for me is what everyone can do, and you can do it multiple times a day. Take a salad bowl or a popcorn bowl or whatever you would, just that you can fit your head in. So some people have different sizes. So whatever you can fit your head in. A bag of ice can last you a week. You take a handful, put it in the bowl, then add water and let it sit for a few minutes until you put your hand in, it feels cold, and you want to leave like a little gap so that when you put your head in, it doesn't overflow. And literally, you put your head in so it covers your forehead, and you've got a super sensitive area here that's filled with temperature sensors.
Yeah.
So that sets off that dive reflex. So you put your head in, and what I do is I just blow bubbles. And I go to blow bubbles. Some people get like the ice cream headache. If you get that, just pull out. Then it's enough. But if you don't, just blow bubbles, and literally what you have and you can repeat that 2 or 3 times, and what you get is that parasympathetic, that's super focused and super relaxed. It will snap you out of, if you're frazzled or if you're super stressed for a meeting, or if you don't have that go gear
drive,
in the morning, just do that, and you can do it with your kids. You can do it with anyone. It's safe.
Amazing.
And it's also like it stimulates a lot of blood flow to your face. So it would be a fascinating thing to do with a friend.
Yeah.
And take a before and after picture. Like you look like literally, whatever age you are, you look like 5 years younger after a minute. And you feel it's like almost when you go to the garage and they clean your windscreen.
Yeah.
It's
clarity.
literally that.
Yeah. Clarity.
It melts everything else away, and you're calm and clear for hours after that.
Amazing.
So that's a 1 minute intervention. Then a lot of people are saying, well, I'm tired of buying ice. You can either have the bath in your bathroom, or you can buy a tub or a barrel or something, and create something in the garden. The next level is a chest freezer.
Yes.
And so there's the chest freezer folk, and that's that. So there's the bath, the barrel, then the chest freezer, then there's all different levels that go after that. So the thing about a chest freezer, it's reasonably inexpensive, and it keeps it cold, but then you've got the admin of you need to change the water pretty often.
Yeah, gotcha.
And you can't throttle the temperature so much. Then you get chest freezers that have been modified that you can do it. And then after that, you've got an aesthetic looking chest freezer that
50 grand lights or whatever it is. Yeah.
And then there's even more where you've got your ozone controlled and
next
and
level
filtered. It's like a little pool system, and it's exceptional.
Amazing.
So there's a whole different level when you want to get into it. But the main thing is start slow, don't overcook it.
Yeah.
You
I
really
love that.
you're actually stressing yourself instead of benefiting yourself. And sometimes you'll see on days it will be super rewarding, and on Sundays it could be the wrong play too. So you could actually get more anxious if it could drive up your
you've got to get to a point where you're doing it enough to know your body and know yourself. So there's lots of mornings when I do come home, and it's, as you say about the people who don't want to do it the most are going to get the best benefit. There's a lot of mornings when I come home from a run and I'm like, I'm not going to do it today. And then I say to myself, this is what I got out of 75 hard, is don't be a bitch, be a boss. Don't cut yourself a break. Go for it. And then I go, fine, I'll do it. I said I was going to do it, I'm going to do it. And then you do it, and it's those mornings that you end up staying in the longest, or you get out and you feel the best. And there's never, ever, by the way, guys, ever have I gotten out and got, shit, that was a mistake, I shouldn't have done that. Not once. Not once have I ever said I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
It's always, 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 yes, I'm stoked. Yo, well done, bro. You did it. Like,
Yeah.
and it's the same feeling. It's always, the first time is always as good as the last time.
Exactly. And isn't it fascinating that as much as we achieve in life, we're very low on self-love.
Yeah.
But when we do these kind of things, we actually love ourselves.
Yeah.
We love ourselves for it.
Dude, that's a great way to put it. This is just self-love.
Yeah.
You're so proud of yourself. If just for that feeling of pride in yourself, forget about all the good feelings that it actually makes you feel. It's just knowing that you've done something as tough as that makes you feel really good.
Yeah.
It's worth doing. Dude, I think you've converted you've definitely, I mean, I was never going to stop. I'm loving it, but you've helped me make up my mind that I definitely need to probably invest in a chest freezer for the summer months, because I realize I'm going to miss it if I don't do that. You've made that decision. You've helped me make that decision, because I've realized now. You've also, what I think is so beautiful about what you've done is you've explained it in such a way that you've made me, I'm going to talk about it from my perspective, but this is for everyone. You've made me realize that I have the power to control the chemicals and the hormones in my body. I don't just have to jump in the water and get the benefit. I have the ability to control that by putting on music, by doing it with someone, by staying in for a certain amount of time, and I don't need to stay in for longer, or maybe staying a bit longer. Like, you've empowered me. That's the word I'm looking for. You've empowered me in cold plunging.
Amazing.
And hopefully you've also shared this last bit about how anybody can start.
Yeah.
So
when you think about it, and potentially to end on this, the one thing that I learned through some of my therapy training, and it's a shout out to Hanan Bushkin and Anthony Townsend, is in their model they're very big on don't trust your feelings. Your feelings will mislead you. Action is everything, and the reward that you get for it. Motivation doesn't come from wanting to do it. It comes from after doing something.
Doing it, yeah.
So if you're waiting for the motivation to do something, it's probably not going to come, or it may be fleeting on the other day. What really defines someone, if you look at someone who's successful at something and not successful, and if you're looking to be the world best at something, it's on
the days you don't want to do things.
We go through ups and downs. That's human nature.
Yeah.
But the difference between the successful and not successful, they know what they'll get out of doing it, so they do it irrespective of how they feel.
Yeah. As anyone would say, I'm trying to stop swearing on the podcast, because I realize it's not a good thing. But if your feelings don't actually matter. What matters is what you actually do about it, and what you actually action.
So it's quite interesting when I was in the US, the one rule in the class was fuck your story.
Yeah.
Whatever you do, just don't tell me your story. Just tell me what you've done to be a better person.
Love it. What action have you taken?
Yeah. Not interested in your story.
Dude, this podcast continues to surprise me, actually. And it just confirms to me that I'm on the right track, and I'm speaking to the right people, and I'm involving the right people, because never in a million years could I have imagined that this is what I would have felt. It's so funny. I feel like I've cold plunged. That's what I feel like. I feel like I'm coming out the other side going, dude, did you see what just went on there? You're not proud. I feel proud of myself, because I've got a dude here telling me, expanding and empowering what I've been doing, and I've been feeling so proud of myself. I can't wait to do it tomorrow, so that I can say, dude, put in some music and like let me experiment. Ronen, bro, I did it. It was so lekker. You're so right. Like,
you have to let me know.
I will, 100,000%.
So let's end on this, because the cold plunge is just one arrow in the quiver. So
yeah.
So if you want to continue learning, we can continue chatting, but we can also make it experiential.
Beautiful.
So why don't you invite 10 of your people?
Beautiful.
And you can come to my place, and I can show you the Alchemist Cookbook.
Beautiful.
So
this
sometime in the future,
the
we can bring it to life.
The answer is yes, 100,000%. I'm going to. So the 75 hard I'm doing now. I've got about 25 people around the world doing it with me. Quite a few of them are in Joburg, I'm very, very sure that I can convince a few of them to do it. I'll put this out into the podcast, I'll start putting it onto the socials and see who's interested, so that it's not just Stephen, this crazy who's jumping into the pool on a winter's morning, but actually Ronen Aires, who knows what he's talking about. He's got your back, he'll keep you safe. And you can tell your mothers to stop phoning me and telling me to stop trying to make you do crazy things. Dude, I don't actually know what to say. Thank you, and I can't wait for the next one. I've got a feeling there will be one, if you'll have me back. And if you'll do it again, I think you've got an immense amount to share beyond just cold plunging. I know that now. As I said, your reputation was, you speak to Ronen, he does cold plunging, but I had a feeling anybody who's built a reputation for being the cold plunger is doing a lot more than just cold plunging. He's working on mindset stuff. He's working on vision. He's working on purpose. And hearing about your trail running and making yourself tough and all that, dude, that's the story of this podcast. So thank you, dude. I can't thank you enough. People can get a hold of you how? Or
either LinkedIn or Instagram or
I'll
WhatsApp.
share it all.
I'll
share it all below.
I do have a group that I've got that just lets people know about upcoming events in Joburg. So breathwork, cold immersion, sauna, or mini, I call 4-hour resets.
Beautiful.
Where we do all of it.
Okay. I'll put it all in the things.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ronen will be back, guys. I think this is exactly the kind of caliber of person that I want to talk to and get more out of. I'm exhausted. So I always say to my business coach, over the years that I've worked with him, whenever I finish a session with him, I'm exhausted because my mind's worked and I'm like, there's so many possibilities and I've got work to do. So I've got to go out and do. But I'm tired, bro. I feel the same way. And it's a compliment. It's not a criticism. It's like, I feel like I've worked out, man.
Sounds like you need a plunge.
Thank you, my dude. We'll chat again soon.